right. I see a number of people have joined us, so we are going to get started. I do want to thank you all for joining us today. I am Jake Trinidad here with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Today's session is an informational overview on the NJEDA's Activation, Revitalization, and Transformation, or ART program. A quick housekeeping note, we do suspect that many questions will be answered in today's presentation. However, you are able to write in questions at any point during the presentation using Zoom's Q&A feature. It is one of your Zoom command options and will allow us to make sure we are able to get back to you and let others see those questions and answers as well. Today's session is being recorded and will be posted on the NJEDA website and our NJEDA YouTube page. The slides and other resources will also be available in the next few days. Now, to get us started with the presentation, I will shift things over to NJEDA's Chief Community Development Officer, Ty Cooper. Ty?
Thank you so much, Jake, and so excited to be here. This is a truly memorable day for EDA, where I honestly feel like we are putting our money where our arts and our heart and our mouths truly are. So super excited about this. The ART program will drive meaningful community engagement by convening local developers and artists with the business community. The arts are an essential thread in the fabric of creative placemaking, and the ART program will illuminate New Jersey's rich and storied legacy in both performing and visual arts. You're going to hear the word art 1,000 times today because we are so excited about really showcasing how art truly is an economic engine and is truly part of the work that we're doing. I'm also super excited that the NJEDA has truly made an investment in human capital and hired Barbara Bickart, a nationally acclaimed artist and educator with deep roots throughout New Jersey. She will keep us honest and grounded as we continue to build out the art vertical at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Barb, give us a little bit of information about yourself.
Thanks so much, Ty. I just want to say that my name is actually Barbara Bickart. I was born that way. I didn't change it along the way. And in fact, I have invested my whole professional life in being involved in the arts. I am a working artist. I've been a working artist for a long time and have been embedded in institutions that are both nonprofits and education institutions. And the EDA, just what Ty said, is putting their money where their mouth is by hiring someone like me to begin to really examine very closely the landscape of what's happening in the culture, in the arts and culture of New Jersey, and to figure out how it is that we can have even more of an impact by kind of diving in based on what our goals are and partnering with arts and culture folks all over the state to make more robust funding available and initiatives and programs that we're able to do based on needs. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Barbara. So again, we have hired the EDA's first senior advisors for arts and culture, and we're super excited. Jake, we can get started and get the presentation kicked off. We'll go to the next slide. There you go. So just to give you some preview, again, as you know, EDA is the economic engine for the state. When you think of economic development, you don't typically think about how arts is interlaid or interspersed with this work. But when you take a step back and truly think about the impact that arts has had, it's seismic. Arts activity stimulates over 1.2 billion in economic activity every year. And the arts community supports over 17,000 businesses and 77,000 jobs. And I'd be remiss if I didn't repeat a quote that our Honorable Secretary Tahisha Way said: "Art in all its varied forms enhances the lives of New Jerseyans. It ultimately shines a light on all aspects of society by lifting our spirits, beautifying communities, and attracting visitors." The New Jersey Council of the Arts also sits under the Honorable Tahisha Way. Next slide, Jake. I'm just giving you like a sense of the arts organizations that we have been able to help. From COVID on, it's been incredibly important for us at EDA to really start supporting the arts. So this is just a listing of some of the entities, some of the few entities that we have been serving, and the hope to, of course, expand that much broader than this as well. Go to the next slide. So what is this program? I know you guys have heard the term, but ART actually stands for Activation, Revitalization, and Transformation. This is a pilot program that we were deployed at $10 million from the American Rescue Plan. Of this, we're super excited to start this program in both Newark and Atlantic City, two of my favorite cities. Just to give you a high-level overview of what this means, 70% of the funding has been earmarked for real estate, 30% has been earmarked for public space and art activities. The amount of funding we're putting towards each of these initiatives is more than we've ever done before. For the real estate and rehab side, the minimum award request is $250,000. The max award request is $3.5 million. And on the public space activation side, which Matt Boyle and Janelle will talk about, the minimum award request is $250,000 and the maximum award request is $1.5 million. Next slide. As far as the eligible locations, I've said this before, this is really happening within two major cities, both in Newark and Atlantic cities, within the commercial corridors of these areas, which is defined as being within a 1.5 mile radius of an active NJ Transit rail station. Online right now, we do have an active mapping tool, which you'll be able to literally put an address in there and see if your area is actually designated for the ART program. Next slide. I'm going to let Janelle actually start talking about the eligible applications, but one thing I will stress before she comes on, it is critically important to make sure that you think about collaboration throughout all components of this process. The window for this program is open until August the 22nd, so there's more than enough time. But again, think of collective impact tables, think of putting together LOIs with real estate developers. This is incredibly important for the work we're doing, but collaboration is going to be the way to get the best impact for these programs. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague and friend, Janelle Johnson. Slide that over.
Good afternoon. So happy to see such a robust audience. We are now going to give you further information regarding the eligibility of the program, in addition to providing you information that will be enclosed on the application. So eligible applicants, who are they? They're private or nonprofit developers that can demonstrate capacity to complete a development and redevelopment project or have experience with a project of a similar scope. Nonprofit economic development or redevelopment agencies that can demonstrate capacity to complete a development or redevelopment project and have experience with a project of a similar scope. Commercial property owners that can demonstrate capacity to complete a development and redevelopment project or have experience with a project of a similar scope. So as you can see, there's not a limited pool of applicants. We're welcoming the creativity. And we're going to continue on to the next slide, Jake. Eligibility map. As Ty Cooper said, we do have a tool that will allow you to be aware if your property, obviously in Newark or Atlantic City, is in that 1.5 commuter hub section. So please use that so you can determine eligibility. Eligible project activities. So to be eligible for ART funding, all capital construction projects must have a total cost of less than $10 million. And these projects can include renovation or restoration of vacant buildings or square feet of vacant space within a partially occupied building. New construction of at least 10,000 square feet on an existing vacant lot can be acquisition costs, and eligible projects can include mixed-use construction. Ineligible projects would be projects that are 100% residential construction and demolition of a structure to create a vacant lot for future development. As to the public space activation, the eligibility requirements are such. The location must be in a commercial corridor within the boundaries of the city of Newark or Atlantic City. Commercial corridor is defined as being within a 1.5 mile radius of an active New Jersey Transit rail station. Eligible applicants, who are they? Nonprofit organizations with a 501c3 or a 501c19 status, including but not limited to economic development corporations, community development corporations, nonprofit economic development or redevelopment agencies, in addition to business improvement districts and city improvement districts and art organizations. As to the eligible project activities, funding is expected to support the creation of public space activation initiatives such as, but not limited to, placemaking projects, public art installations, signage, and streetscape improvements, activation of public spaces through events, operating costs for arts organizations, and master and subleases for programmatic use, including incubator space, small business support, and events in mixed use and commercial properties only. Art program. So we're going to go over the application. I am going to hand this over to my colleague, Matt Boyle, who will take you through what you can expect so that you are prepared when completing and filling out the application.
Thank you very much, Janelle. We could start the application. Next slide. So this application process is it's a competitive award. It's a 60-day evaluation period. The application is open for 60 days. It will close August 22nd, and then all applications will be scored by staff reviewers. Applications will be scored on a point basis between 0 and 100. A minimum score is required for approval of 65 points. The criteria can be found in Exhibit B, but also on the board memo, which is on the website, on NJEDA's website, as well as product specs. The grant award recommendation will be made based on the highest scored applicants. Awards will be recommended in order until the funding pool is fully utilized. So this is the first page of the application. It's found on NJEDA's website. Basically at the bottom left-hand corner is how you page through the application. And you just click next to go on to the next page. This will be the first page. It's just a welcoming page. No information is input on this page. So there's really two different paths in the application and two different programs basically within this program. There's the real estate rehabilitation and development application, or the public space activation. The examples, if you're applying for the real estate rehabilitation and development, is renovation or restoration of a vacant building, new construction of at least 10,000 square feet of an existing vacant lot, and costs associated with property acquisition. For the public space activation application and scoring, its examples are placemaking, events related projects, art installations, signage, streetscape improvements, and small business support. After you choose which application you are going to move forward with and which applies to your project, this page is just the primary point of contact. Again, the email and contact information should be the person for which correspondence by EDA staff, if necessary, they will correspond with this particular person. If the primary point of contact is not an authorized representative for the organization, the applicant will be asked to fill out the contact information for the authorized representative. If the primary point of contact is the chief executive officer, you will be asked to fill out the contact information for the chief executive officer, owner, or equivalent person. Here, it's pretty self-explanatory. If the primary point of contact is not the consultant for the business, you'll be asked if you would like to designate immediate contact. Some applicants may choose to utilize a consultant, while the NJEDA will direct all communications to the primary point of contact. You'll be asked if you would like to designate a consultant contact who is assisting with this application. If yes, then you have to fill out the appropriate contact information for the media contact. Applicant organization, this part of the application, we're collecting information regarding the business. So you'll request what type of entity it is, put in the date established, upload entity formation documents, federal tax EIN number, which can be found usually on your tax returns, NJ tax identification number, and then the NJ tax clearance certificate, in which the application will have a link to tax clearance. If the applicant is involved in religious activities, you'll have to fill out the religious activity questionnaire. Additional information: if a company is involved in political or lobbying activities, the application will direct you to complete a political activity questionnaire and upload it. There is a cannabis questionnaire in which you have to verify if you have received any financial incentives for cannabis-related business. New Jersey state law prohibits licensees and certified personal use cannabis handlers from receiving or continuing to receive most incentive rewards.
Thank you, Matt. So that is the actual Common App. That is an NJEDA standard application regardless of the program. If you have any questions, we have a Q&A chat. You can also email us, but we will now move on to the product specific piece of the application. Okay, so in this section, we would like to learn about the location of your project, the proposal, and how you plan to impact the community if awarded this grant. If the project area will include more than one lot and block, we would like for you to provide a range or click the Add Lot and Block button for a non-contiguous parcels of land. Using the NJEDA mapping tool provided right on that hyperlink, which will be a part of the application, this will create the upload of the mapping tool so it can let you know if your project is in fact in the eligible area. And the directions to use the tool is right there under the actual link. As to the overview, the proposal, you may use the blank box or upload your own project narrative as a separate document and write included as an upload in the box. And your response should include the following: the total acreage of the property, number of buildings, square footage, number of floors, historic designation if it applies, the condition of the property, project engagement plan, and project impact description. The more you provide regarding the project and the narrative, the better. And typically, it's just to give you some insight. Typically, a project narrative is normally 1 to 2 pages, so don't feel you have to give us your capstone paper, okay? Just 2 pages, all good. As to the project financing, in this section, we want to ensure your ability to cover the actual project costs and plans for completing this project on schedule. The total grant requested must be between $250,000 and $3.5 million, as Ty Cooper previously mentioned. So we will provide you with a budget template, and you can actually use that template to fill in the total project cost, which will be in an Excel file format. And you're also going to download a source and uses template, which will provide you with the ability to identify all the current sources and uses of funding for your project before uploading as an Excel file. And very importantly, please be aware that the grant funds for the project must be expended by December 2026. As to the team capacity in this section, we want to understand your team's prior relevant work, experience, and the competencies on your team that will ensure the success of this project. Combine the current and previous project summaries into a single document and/or use this section to upload multiple work samples. This here would be your portfolio. You can combine your organizational chart, project manager resumes, and any other additional documents demonstrating the team's capacity in a single document form, and you can upload it right here in this section. And please also keep in mind there's footnotes at the bottom of the page that gives you a little extra guidance to the questions and instructions being provided. As to the site control and activation, in this section, we will ask you to provide supplemental documentation confirming you will have access to the relevant property for the full length of the project and any other project-specific documents you consider missing from your application thus far. If you own the property, select Own from the drop-down menu and upload, and the upload field will appear for you to provide documentation evidencing your site control or property ownership. Just giving you some examples, it could be a deed, executed agreement of sale, lease, things to that nature. If you do not own the property site, as you can see, a lease is also eligible as form of site control. Complete the site infrastructure plan section by describing the infrastructure readiness of your project site. If you have received any local approvals to complete your project, at this time, you will be asked to upload those documents here. Project overview. In this section, we'd like to learn about the location of your project proposal, and how you plan to impact the community if awarded this grant. The project location must be in Atlantic City or Newark. We'd like for you to use the mapping tool provided to once again upload your information and make the determination as to the eligibility requirements, and this is particularly for the public space activation. So as the project overview for the public space activation, the project proposal, you would also need to include a narrative, as I previously said, and it would include essentially the same information: the current state of the site on which the project will be located, total acreage, proposed project and end use, community impact, and how the project will grow tax base, number of buildings, if any, improvements, and then an analysis of accessibility of site by businesses and residents. The project engagement plan is a long-term community impact, which actually helps us measure neighborhood success. And as to this project, we would like to revitalize the communities based on COVID-19 and just how our cities, particularly commuter and foot traffic, were hindered as a result of the pandemic. So this is a community-driven vision that will activate and improve the cities. Public activation space again, project financing, very similar to the real estate piece. The total grant can be between $250,000 and $1.5 million. You're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to upload your budget template and your sources and uses. That will take place in this section. And once again, the funds must be expended by December 1st of 2026 per the rules of this program. Team capacity for the public space activation. We want to understand your team's prior relative work as it relates to public space and the competencies of your team that will ensure the success of this project. In this area, you're going to combine current and previous project summaries into a single document and/or use this section to upload multiple work samples. More is better. Combine project manager resumes and any additional documents demonstrating the team's capacity into a single document and upload it to this section. Public space activation as it relates to site control, exact same thing. In this section, we want to understand how you do plan to activate this public space and engage the community to meet the goals and the vision of this program. So for each question, you'll have the option to either provide a short response in the corresponding box or upload a document containing your response. If you already have access to the project site, or if you've started the process of obtaining site access, please also use the upload button to include any supporting documentation. Prevailing wage. This is our favorite topic. So prevailing wage and affirmative action requirements. This is the state of New Jersey, NJEDA specifically. So depending on the type of work, it does trigger prevailing wage. And just in layman's terms, that's about a 30% increase to your actual total budget. Okay, so if the project was $10 and now you have to incorporate prevailing wage, it's going to be $13. So make sure it's critical that you include that in your budget when you submit your application. We do not want any shortfalls. So construction activities are subject to the New Jersey affirmative action and prevailing wage requirements. In order to proceed with the application, you must acknowledge any construction on the project undertaken either by you as a result of this application or anyone else, and it is subject to prevailing wage and affirmative action by checking a required box. Duplication of benefits. In this section, we're going to ask if you've received any other funds, government loans, grants, private or bank loans, donations, insurance proceeds, etc. If no, you're going to certify that this is correct, and you're just going to simply move on to the next page. If yes, select all the programs your business has applied to or received funding for from the list that appears, and or check other to include any other funding sources not covered in the list. For each source, you will need to provide the following information. If you have applied but did not receive, you do not have to complete the information. It's more so for funds that you've received as a result of that can be related to this particular project. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. In this section, we would like more information about the diversity of your respective organization. Answers have absolutely no impact on eligibility for assistance and providing information. It's optional, and it's to be used honestly for tracking purposes only. Within each of these questions, prefer not to answer can also be selected if that is the case, or if the question is just not applicable to your organization. Applicant representation. If the individual filling out the application is employed by the organization that is applying for the program and legally authorized to sign documents on behalf of the applicant company, 3 additional pages will appear immediately after this page. Legal questionnaire, certification of non-involvement in prohibited activities in Russia or Belarus, and certification of application. If the individual filling out the application is not employed by the organization that is applying for the program, or is not legally authorized to sign documents on behalf of the applicant company, the individual will then be required to download 3 PDF forms and upload versions that have been signed and completed by the authorized representative. Legal questionnaire. In this section, we will be collecting the legal questionnaire, which, as you can see to the right, is a document, and it will be uploaded into the system as part of your application. Certification of non-involvement, which is prohibited activities in Russia or Belarus. Once again, it's just another document. It's a requirement of the program. You would complete that document, upload it to the application. And finally, you're going to certify the application, and there are a couple of sections here where you're understanding and affirming to the documentation, which will require your signature at the end. You're going to click the orange link to download the 3 forms and then upload versions signed and completed by the authorized representative. Fee acknowledgement. In this section, you're going to be asked to acknowledge a $1,000 non-refundable application fee payable by way of credit card. Once you hit submit on an application, an email will be sent to the primary point of contact email with the link and instructions to make the credit card payment. The payment must be completed before EDA will begin reviewing your application. Remember, this is a score-based program, so it's very important that you complete the application in its entirety, particularly by acknowledging the $1,000 fee. So for nonprofit entities, you will have the option to apply for a hardship waiver that will waive the application fee. If you are a not-for-profit entity wishing to pursue this option and check the box, you will also be required to upload a copy of your organization's most recent 990 form. And finally, we're at the finish line. Here's your electronic signature acknowledging all of the information on the application. As you can see, it's pretty clean cut. Hope this was very informative. At this time, I would like to turn this back over to our Chief, Ty Cooper.
Thanks. I love how we're just like sliding this back and forth. So thank you all for being so patient. I know this was a long webinar, but I want to remind you of a couple things. We're literally giving you the test before you actually take it. And so I would make sure you take the time to go onto our website, NJEDA, click on the art actual, and Virginia, if you can put this in the chat, that'd be great. I think you already have. But if you click on the link to art, we literally give you the FAQs. We give you samples of all the documents that you have to actually upload. And again, to stress, there is a waiver fee for nonprofits. Make sure you look into that. And again, collaboration is key throughout this. It makes sense if several organizations are partnering together to put this work forward. It makes sense if you do festivals throughout the year. That's the kind of thing that we definitely truly want to see. We want to be able to highlight work that is already happening in these cities, in your Newark, in your Atlantic City, highlight them, amplify them, and also fund them at the cost that they should be funded at. So again, collaboration is key. Take your time to go through the application. It's literally on the website right now. You also have 60 days to complete the application, and we will be holding live sessions, in-person sessions in both Newark and Atlantic City to answer more of your questions. So I know there's been a lot of information that's been thrown at you. There's a couple of questions in the chat that we're gonna go to. So I'll just start with this really quickly. This is a great question. Just to be clear, can a real estate project that includes a cannabis business apply for this art grant? Because in the state of New Jersey, we have legalized marijuana, but it's not legal on a federal level, and these are federal dollars. The ART program is using the American Recovery Plan funding. That's federal, so you cannot have a cannabis business or have received state funding for cannabis and also apply for this one. If you have any more questions, please reach out to us at art@njeda.gov. What's the deadline for questions? The deadline for questions is August 21st, 2023. Jonathan, I see your question. Again, we have a live email that we answer every single day. So it's art@njeda.gov. And again, we want to make sure that we can answer as many of your questions as possible. So please keep them coming. I see Elizabeth says, is a resolution to apply for the grant from the nonprofit board required and our applicant audits required? And I'm going to turn that over to Janelle and Matt, because I don't believe so, but want to just make sure. Janelle is saying no. But again, Elizabeth, if you want to just shoot us an email again, art@njeda.gov, we will make sure we go back to that question. Antonio, how are you, Antonio? Asks, can you speak a bit more about project readiness, eligibility? For instance, do permits need to be in hand, site approval in hand? I'm going to turn that over to my colleague, Janelle Johnson.
Thank you so much. As to evaluating the readiness of a project, it's typically determined, like, so nobody's penalized, right? But the further along, and remember, the completion date is December of 2026. So we want to be intentional in ensuring that the project's not too big. And of course, they're never too small, but in determining the readiness, it's maybe you have already received some funds. Perhaps you've identified a site. Perhaps you have a lease in place with the landlord. Maybe you have a project and it's halfway complete and you've run out of funds. You have this great idea and you have the moving forces, but you just need additional funding. So readiness is really, it's very vague and vast. However, it's just, we would like it to be beyond an idea, if that makes any sense, right? So if you have an open public space art gallery and you've identified a beautiful site downtown Newark and it's a vacant spot, that doesn't mean you're not ready, because you can get ready. So that's just an example of your readiness to proceed. So by the time you fill out the application, we would like to see that you have gone into a lease with the landlord, the terms and conditions make sense, it's not too much that you can bite off, and it's going to bring vibrancy and that foot traffic back to the city.
And the last thing I would say, like for our team, again, we have 2 underwriters who are working with us on this. So they're looking at the finance gap, especially on the real estate side. One thing I do want to also say, if you apply for the art side and you're a nonprofit and you're also partnering with the developer for the real estate side, that is also permissible. You can apply for both. You can apply, we don't have a limitation also on the number of times that you're allowed to actually apply for these grants. Also, really quickly, I see from Rose St. Allboard, Also, the 1.5 mile distance from the train, is that concrete or can it be a little further? No. So in order to get anything out from EDA, everything has to go through our board and be approved by our DAG, because this really is a commuter hub. That was the initial name for it, was commuter hub. It really is focused on bringing foot traffic back down to our central business district. So really within that 1.5 radius is where we're thinking. And I want to say for Newark, it goes from the Orange Street station all the way down to Lincoln Park. And I want to say as far back as Halsey and MLK. So the footment or the catchment area that you have in both areas is quite large. But again, the whole point behind this is we understand, again, with ARP funding, this is implicated by COVID. And so the impacts that COVID had, especially on our commercial corridors, has been devastating. And so we want to bring more businesses downtown. We want to bring more art galleries downtown. We want to reinvigorate those areas. And this is really being used as a catalyst for this. So I hope that helps really quickly. For Carlos, or Carolosa says, to clarify, we are a nonprofit looking at a site to lease. The owner developer submits the application. No, go ahead, Janelle, you can answer that one.
Okay, so to clarify, and that's actually a very, very good question. Our applicant is always going to be to the tenant that is looking to lease the space. There could be examples where the applicant could also be the landlord, and we accept those applications as well. So just think of us, we're evaluating what the project actually entails and what it's going to be. So that will be based on what the applicant is submitted rather than the person who owns site control. Site control is really just a part of the program that demonstrates that you have access to the property for us to continue to support and move forward with the program.
And while we're doing this, Christina Fuentes is also answering the chat. So if I don't get to all of your questions, just know that Christina Fuentes is busily answering them on this side. But if there aren't any other questions, again, I would say take all of the links that were put into the chat, make sure that you're also combining all those answers as well. And again, we are here as the resource. We're going to be doing in-person sessions in both Newark and Atlantic City. So this will not be the one and only chance that you have to do this work. And I would again stress collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. That is really going to be key to a lot of the success you have here. And then again, I would also say, go onto the website, make sure you look at like what the scoring criteria actually looks like. When I say we give you all the answers to the test, we literally give you all the answers to the test. And so again, we want to be able to help. We want this to be a program that's successful. And again, Newark and Atlantic City are the pilots. We are going to be expanding this program statewide. But again, what better places to start than in Newark, New Jersey and Atlantic City? I'm going to turn this back over to Jake, but I want to thank my colleagues, Christina Fuentes, Barbara Bickert, Matt Boyle, Jake, of course, Virginia, and Janelle Johnson for being part of this. The slide deck will be emailed to everyone, and I think it gives all of our emails. So we are not running, we are not hiding. We want to be inundated with questions, no matter how technical they are. Email us. We want you guys to do really, really well in this program. And again, we want our shining stars in Newark and Atlantic City to really be at the forefront. So we're excited about this work, and we really are here to help. And again, I cannot stress the importance of us having somebody like Barbara on the team who is advocating for art entities day and night. So thank you. The one last thing I will say, and I just got pinged by this, cities or municipalities are actually not allowed to apply, but because they are not allowed to apply as a municipality, they were a great convener. I know Fayemi in this great city of Newark, New Jersey has been all over this, and the same in Atlantic City with cash. So again, municipalities are not necessarily allowed to apply, but they can serve as conveners. They can serve as collective impact tables for everybody, and they can also really help you guys in moving this forward, especially in Newark because they have a land bank and can identify properties. So we are excited about this work, and thank you so much. And again, I will just say this one more time. Application sunsets August 22nd. These are federal funds. So as you're doing this, remember the program has to be able to be committed to completely by 2026. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Jake. I'm going to finally shut up. We're excited about this. We're excited about having the arts piece on board and really great to continue this work. So Jake, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ty, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. Once again, if you want more information, please visit njeda.gov/activation, revitalization, and transformation art program. It's right there on the screen. If you have any further questions, please email art@njeda.gov. Once again, the recording for this webinar will be posted on our YouTube page and on the product page in the coming days, as well as the PowerPoint and the resources in this webinar. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.